don't forget to subscribe. And thank you very much for doing so. There's some light camera shaking that stops at about the 29-minute mark. But let's tune in for some great tips.
Hello, and welcome back to another video. Howdy, folks. Today I'm riding my veteran Sherman electric unicycle in the streets of New York City. Sorry, my mask is really blocking my speech. Okay, that should be better. Folks, I'm on the veteran Sherman electric unicycle. It is a freezing cold day. It's about 20 degrees outside. And that is a perfect time for me to talk to you about the top 5 rules of riding your electric unicycle in the streets of Manhattan or anywhere in New York City for that matter, and how to stay safe. So welcome to all the beginner riders out there. Whoa. And congratulations on buying your first EUC. And to all the veteran riders out there who probably know a lot of stuff already and have been riding for a while, maybe you can chime in and tell me if you agree or disagree with any of my rules and advice for today. You can let us know in the comments or share any rules that I might have missed. You can also let me know if you disagree with any of the ideas I put forth today. So, you finally pulled the trigger and you bought yourself an electric unicycle, huh? It must feel amazing. You must have that little itch, that little bug that keeps telling you to go outside and ride all the time, much like we veterans still do to this day. Now, I've been riding for about 4, maybe 5 years now, and I've had about 20 electric unicycles that I bought and sold, some of them new, some of them secondhand. And in riding a lot on the streets of New York, in Manhattan, I've learned a lot. I ride in the suburbs too sometimes, but not a lot. My area of expertise is definitely going to be on the streets of New York City, in Manhattan. So, let's get to some of these rules and regulations for safety. Because there's no manual, there's no driver's test, there's no handbook. It's just going to be a lot of trial and error for you out there, trying to figure out what's what. And if you don't want to hurt yourself, like I did a few times, it's time for you to learn a couple things to get you on your journey. So first of all, big shout out to Steph One Wheel in the comments. Steph, you've been commenting on a bunch of videos and asking questions, so you may have inspired this video a little bit. But congrats to all the other people in the comments as well. There have been a bunch of you guys in the comments saying that you're about to buy a wheel or that you just bought a wheel. Congratulations to all those folks also. So this is for you guys. And like I said, the veterans also. If you've got some ideas you want to chip in here, definitely most welcome. I might even be expecting to learn a thing or two, because I know there are a lot of seasoned riders out there that even I cannot hold a candle to. So, and I appreciate all the advice I've gotten over the years from experienced riders myself. So it's definitely a sharing and learning community. Okay, let's start with number 5 and work our way up the list to number 1. Number 5, one of the most important things you're going to do as an electric unicycle rider is do your best to stick to traffic laws, such as riding on the correct direction of a street. So a lot of people think that because you're on a unicycle, you can go in whatever direction you want on the streets, and you're not really supposed to follow any of the laws that pertain to cars or bicycles. And you know what? You might get that impression from me and from other riders that you can take red lights and things like that. But there are certain non-negotiables. For example, Going down the wrong way on a one-way street is a big no-no, whether it's a street or an avenue, because it's not just the cars you have to look out for. Very oftentimes you'll see electric scooters and electric bikes, and even just regular bikes, that will come in squeezing through with the cars in the correct direction. And if you're going against traffic, you're going to find yourself in a very hairy, dangerous position very often. It's one of the first things I tell my siblings and my brother, my friends, and anyone who's riding. You'll notice I never go down a wrong way on a street unless it's like literally one street or half a street, and I can see clear ahead that there's little to no traffic oncoming, and I just need to get to another point. But if I need to go somewhere in my electric unicycle and it's about 5 blocks or 10 blocks or several miles, I will never compromise and say, well, I'm just going to go down the wrong way up this avenue for 3 or 4 streets. And you'd be surprised how in the beginning a lot of riders are willing to do this. And as an experienced rider now, I think it is insane to go down the wrong way on a street, especially an avenue or a busy street. It's just absolutely bananas, because one moment you'll see a clear empty street and you'll be like, oh, I can go down that street for 3 blocks the wrong way. And then all of a sudden the red light turns green and it's just a herd of cars, a stampede of vehicles, electric vehicles, scooters, mopeds that are just coming right at you. People will be honking at you, swerving out of your way, and it's a terrible feeling. So please avoid it at all costs. As for red lights, like this red light right now, when I see cars coming in either direction, I always look carefully and make sure first before I proceed. And while I do cross red lights, as I'm about to do right now, you never cross until you've given every car the right of way. So this still goes with rule number 1, obeying traffic laws. Now, when you're obeying traffic laws, you're not obeying traffic laws because you're afraid the police might pull you over. You're obeying traffic laws because you want to be part of the traffic community where you get to traverse the streets safely. You're obeying traffic laws because you want to be able to get around from point A to point B, wherever you might be going in the city, safely. Safely. That's the agenda. That's the purpose here. So, red lights, bicycles have the obligation to wait at a red light, and then, if it's safe, can proceed, unless you're a delivery person. If you work in delivery, you cannot proceed at a red light. These are the laws as I read them and understood them. I know that if you got a worker bag or something and it's clear that you work in delivery, cops are more likely to pull you over for not having a helmet, not having a visibility vest, not stopping at a red light or a stop sign. You need to be able to obey all the traffic laws, and this goes for EUC riders as well. If you're working as a Uber Eats or something, I think you might be included in that. You have to stop and wait. I'll leave it to your discretion, but you should be stopping regardless if there's traffic. Don't try to weave through intersection traffic or anyone who might be taking a turn or a corner or anything like that if it's their light. And once it's clear, go. That's just part of obeying traffic regulation and making sure pedestrians are safe and making sure you are safe among the cars and so on. Okay, I think that covers rule number 5. Other traffic rules you should obey as part of rule number 5 also, let me think, would probably be, letting pedestrians cross. If they're on the crosswalk, give them the space they need. If they're anywhere near you, to let them proceed. And I don't know, I think that's it. If you can think of any, please let me know in the comments. Okay, number 4, a very important rule for new electric unicycle riders who want to go home safely to their families, who want to go out on their unicycle and then come home and disrobe and unmount their gear safely, healthy, in one piece, and live to ride another day. God forbid anything bad should happen to any of you guys out there. My thoughts and well, regards for you guys for being safe and all of that, okay? So keep at it and be careful. Okay, number 4. Electric unicycle riders, listen carefully. Helmets. I was not always a helmet guy, but now I cannot even fathom riding without a helmet, okay? And it should be a full face helmet if you are riding a unicycle that can go 25 miles per hour or more. And actually that's the recommended usage for a full face helmet. This what we call motorcycle helmet. If you're going 20 miles per hour or less, I think that a BMX style bicycle helmet, the one with the jaw piece, or just the top piece at least, is fine. But never is riding with a naked head appropriate for any speed electric unicycle. Helmets are important, and a lot of people think that the helmet is only useful or good if I'm gonna let this guy pass. Common courtesy is not just good for the other people, but it's good for you also. Just avoids complications and unnecessary risks. The helmet is also necessary not just for the unlikely and unfortunate event of a collision. The helmet is also important for a few other reasons. Number 1 is definitely for in case of an accident, collision, you fall on the ground, or you get hit by a car or a bicycle. You want to protect your noodle. The noodle is very important. It's your moneymaker. It's your thinker. We live in a knowledge-based society right now. We're not hard laborers as much as we used to be. Some of us might be, but you want to protect your noodle. But also, it's not just accidents you have to worry about when it comes to your helmet. You also want to protect your head from debris. You know, there's a lot of like dust and particles that come flying at you when you're going high speed, and sometimes you can actually get nicked right in the eye. I've had it happen where I've had little particles fly right into my eye and nearly take me out. And it wasn't even anything visible. It was just something in the air. And when you're going 25 miles an hour or more, anything that hits you right in the face or in the eye could seriously debilitate you, especially if it catches you by surprise. So, there's a lot at stake here when you are riding at high speed. And another thing is stuff flying around, especially on windy days. I once saw a disconnected street sign, one of those metal signs, you know, for constructions and road work, flying at high speeds. It was like almost like a boomerang or a sharp spinning blade that would have clearly taken somebody's head off if it was the right place at the right time, kind of thing. It was nowhere near me, luckily, but I tell you, seeing that thing flying around like that, like a frisbee, was not reassuring. I was thinking to myself, ooh, you know, if that came anywhere near me, I would sure hope I had a whole big full face helmet on to prevent any of that kind of tragedy. So, flying debris is another big reason that when you're moving at high speeds and you can't necessarily juke and jive and dodge everything, you want to make sure your head is protected. And another reason, like maybe a fourth reason, that helmets are absolutely essential is because of weather. You know, if it's really cold out or really sunny out, your face will really take a beating. And the more your face is debilitated, the more risk, I think, you are exposing yourself to. So, you want to make sure that you're not subject to the weather elements if you're out here. If it's windy, if it's cold, this helmet is like a large protective bubble dome on your head. And so this helmet becomes an essential part of your everyday riding experience. Don't compromise on the helmet, folks. And the bigger and better of a helmet you can get your hands on, you don't have to spend $800. There are great helmets for $80, $100, $150. For me, the sweet spot is about $150. I think that's when you get yourself a nice helmet that looks cool, but also has all the certifications and all the meets all the requirements for safety based on like the city standards and all that, DOT. So just go on Amazon probably, or your local bike shop or anything, or where they sell helmets, and look around and see if you can't get yourself something good. Especially if you're committed and you're taking this seriously and you're going to be out here riding. Don't take the risk of not having a helmet. And along with the helmet, as part of rule number 4 still, I would say that gloves, wrist guards, knee pads, all of that is essential. Chest guard and so on. You know, the more protective gear you can put on, the better. It's kind of a headache, I know. It seems unnecessary. You're going to think to yourself, hey, I've ridden 100 times. I've never had any incidents. I'm fine. And then, boom, one time. It's all it takes, where you wish that you had your gear on every single ride. Just for reference, when I got hurt unexpectedly after riding a lot and thinking I was safe and fine, and I had zero gear on, except my leather jacket on, thankfully, which actually absorbed a lot of the damage. Luckily, the jacket was zipped up that day. Maybe I had a feeling, but I had no helmet on. What took a lot of damage was my knees, actually, believe it or not. When you go down on an electric unicycle, there's this natural order of damage where basically your knees go down first and take a brunt of the damage. I did not have knee pads on. I did have nice thick jeans on, which were completely torn up, but my knees were absolutely fried for weeks. It took a lot of time. I had to put a lot of antibiotic ointment on them every day, and I had to wear shorts and leave them exposed so they can air out and heal. Luckily, there was no ligament or joint or anything like that damage, but I recovered fully, thankfully. But my knees were sore, the skin was torn up. It was quite a healing period. So if I had to say what's the first protective gear that's most necessary or most helpful after the helmet, even though my head didn't get hurt much at all, I did have a big headphone on and a baseball cap, so maybe that took some of the damage. I don't know. I would still recommend the helmet first and foremost because of the risk factor of hurting your head. However, the second most important, in my opinion, is knee pads for electric unicycle riders, and good ones too. I mean, spend maybe $30-40 at least to get those big knee pads, the ones that cover all the way down to your shins, and then, you know, anything beyond that, like boots, gloves, wrist guards, etc., elbow pads, chest guard, is definitely a plus. You know, it looks cool to wear extra protection gear, in my opinion, but it's also great, you know, in case you're rolling around, in case, God forbid, you get hit by a car, anything like that, you're protected as much as possible. And there are videos out there of EUC crashes where dudes wearing full protective gear will crash going 50 miles an hour, but they'll just get up, brush it off, walk it off, and get right back on their wheel and ride home like nothing happened. I'm telling you, that's definitely from the safety gear. You do not get that when you're out there riding in a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, you know? And they'll show you their safety gear too, the helmet, everything, all scratched up and destroyed. Maybe not completely destroyed, but I think you probably want to change your gear after an incident like that. You want to buy a new helmet if it's all cracked or scratched or whatever. If the visor is scratched, maybe you can get away with just changing the visor for visibility, and so on. You know the deal. Same thing with the elbow pads, knee pads. If there's an issue that looks like you need to replace them, then replace them. So be it. It might sound like one-time use or whatever, and maybe expensive, but I think you don't want to compromise your safety, and also you warn them a lot. So even though you only crashed once, but they covered you for a long period of time. So just divide the cost of the gear over the time you had them, and then maybe that'll tell you if you got a good value or not. Rather than just saying, hey, you know, I spent $50 on these knee pads, and I only crashed in them once, you know. Anyway, as I was saying, knee pads at a $30, $40, $50 on Amazon, I think are good, but they're not great. The ones I'm wearing now from this is like a sort of a higher name brand, so they're about $100. And then, you know, they're the same name brand I'm wearing now, Leatt, makes knee pads that are $150, $200, $300, $400, $600. I don't know if you need $600 knee pads necessarily. Those are called more like braces, knee braces with knee pads built in. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, fellow experienced riders in the comments, but I think those brace knee pads that are like $600 a pair are also to prevent twisting of the knees, not just scratching of the knees. And also, they kind of hold the knee together so that if you've been in an accident before or you have actual knee pain from a history of I don't know, joint pain or age or anything related to your knees, they kind of help your knees feel better while riding. So it's also just like preempting knee issues or medical issues in addition to protecting from possible future accidents. So I don't know if you need to go all out, but if you have money and you want to get something stylish, I do think, you know, that the Z-frame Leatt knee pads, $600 a pair, or C-frame or whatever they're called, just check on Amazon for Leatt knee pads, and I'm sure they'll come up as part of the option. There's also a pair for $320, which I think look pretty cool. They come in white or black. Not sure about the naming detail, but you'll see them if you look them up. I think those look cool as well, but again, I know there's a lot of budget-mindedness going on, so up to you. I'll leave that up to you, what you can afford and what you like and how all in you're going to go there. Mind you, if you do make videos, I think the cooler of gear you can get your hands on, the better, without breaking the bank. But if you're not making videos and you're just interested in safety and you don't care too much about the fashion aspect of it or the status of having great gear that's expensive and looks cool, then, you know, I think these pads for $100 are pretty much sufficient. They're good enough. And then maybe you can upgrade as time goes on, as you become more committed and ride faster and put more work and time in and can afford stuff as you save over the long term. Okay, wow, that took a long time just to cover 2 rules, but I'm being very thorough here. That's the aim of today's video, is to talk about safety habits and safety gear for riding in New York City, especially for the new guys who want to just hop on their wheels and take off into the streets. It takes time. Okay, rule number 3, do not ride your unicycle in the streets with the cars if you don't have 2 things: a wheel that can go over 30 miles an hour, and the second thing is experience. If you cannot go 30, 40 miles an hour comfortably while dodging and avoiding obstacles, do not go in the street with your electric unicycle. Stick to the bike lane, or if you're really super new and really not a well-versed rider yet and you're wobbling and you're still kind of learning the whole thing, please don't go in the street. I can't tell you how many people I've seen that think an electric unicycle is kind of like a scooter, like you can just get on and go, and then they're doing crazy things like riding in the streets and barely holding on for dear life. I mean, I know you're in a rush. I know you want to enjoy yourself. I know you want to get out there and just be like, maybe you saw a group of riders once and they were all doing like 40 miles an hour in the streets screaming, and you were absolutely hyped up by it, and you're like, I got to get a piece of that. Okay, I get it, but your safety is immensely in jeopardy if you're riding in the streets with the cars, regardless. I don't care what level you're on or how long you've been riding. You can have a cutout, you can get a flat tire. There's so many things that can go wrong. And if you're doing 30 and cars all around you are doing 30, if you go down for any reason, even if you're an experienced rider, you're going to be in big trouble, okay? Hopefully nothing happens, God forbid, but now take that and add the exponential amount of increased risk of your unicycle is too small and weak to handle going 30 miles an hour without being in extreme risk of a cutout because you're pushing it to the limit. Don't do that. If you're riding like a 18XL and it says 31 miles per hour is the top speed on the box, just know that, first of all, it's not 31. All the companies do this for some reason. They list a higher speed than what is actually truly in the wheel's capability. Sure, you might be able to hit 31 miles per hour for like a second, you know, and it's beeping, and it's, you know, and you have a full battery that day, and it's too much, and it's wobbling because you're pushing it to its absolute limit. No. If it says 31, the comfortable top speed, in my opinion, is like 25, 27. Yeah, that's a whole 6 miles per hour less, or even all the way up to 3 miles per hour less, or 4, let's say. You need to give it that 4 mile per hour overhead so that you're not riding it on the edge. Because you got to remember, it's not like a scooter where once you hit the limit, the scooter just travels comfortably at that limit and is just okay as long as you want. Just keep holding your finger on that trigger, and it's just going to keep riding at 31 comfortably and evenly until you decide to slow down for any reason. That's not electric unicycle. Electric unicycle is a balancing act. You actually have to lean forward just enough to keep it at 31. And if you lean forward too much beyond 31, it's going to try to accelerate past 31, and then it's going to drop you on the ground from a cutout because you overpowered the wheel. There's no safety guard in place to prevent the wheel from trying to go over 31 and cutting out and then dropping you in the middle of traffic because you were hyped at that moment, or you were trying to keep up because cars are tailgating you, or there's a car next to you and you're trying to race him subconsciously in your mind, and then you fall on your face in the street. Okay, so don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't be in the streets with the cars on a wheel if that wheel cannot go over 30 miles per hour, because in New York City, the speed limit for cars is 25, but I assure you, cars hit 30, sometimes 35 miles an hour in the streets, even though the law says that they're not supposed to. It does happen all the time, especially when there's like a nice open range ahead and there's no cameras on that street that's going to give them a ticket. They'll do it, and they're not doing it maliciously. It's just a natural, I think it's a natural tendency for a car driver to, you know, give it a little speed. And it's not even like they're in a hurry or anything. It's just a natural tendency. It's an open road, it's safe, and they go for it. So, maybe 30 is not even enough. I think maybe your wheel should go 40. That way, if you do go 30 or 35, you're not pushing your wheel to the limit. You still have that overhead of the extra 5 miles an hour. So, yeah, I mean, and if it's a new wheel to you or you're new to riding, my fingertips are freezing right now, people. My goodness. Then if it's a new wheel to you, you might wobble. You know, if you can't do this and dodge a sewer and dodge a pedestrian, if a pedestrian goes waltzing out into traffic, sometimes pedestrians cross the street even when it says don't walk. So that might put you at risk. So if you're not able to kind of throw your wheel around yet, then stay off the street. It's not your time yet, okay? Take your time. And if you want to speed up the process so you can do that, come out here to Central Park at night or during the day, almost every day. Look at this guy, no shirt. In this freezing weather, I am shocked. My fingers are freezing, my helmet is cold, like air is rushing into my helmet and making my face cold. This guy's out here ripping with no shirt on, okay? Get out and get some miles. Try to rack up 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles minimum before you're out trying to ride with cars, as if you're a car. And even then, I sometimes feel guilty. I'm setting a bad example by riding with the car, but I can't not ride with the car because I can't go 15, 20 miles an hour on my wheel when I'm trying to get somewhere. To me, that's kind of almost defeating of the purpose of riding and saving time and being efficient and all that. So if I'm in the bike lane, I have to go 50. Walk in the bike lane. There's too many bikes where they're on their phones or they're going too fast. They're going 40 miles. It's just a lot going on in the bike lane, and it's very narrow. And people sometimes get out of their cars without looking, and they open their doors. And even though there's a little buffer zone between the bike lane and the car parking spots, sometimes those doors fly open or a kid will come out of the car. So look, please don't go 30 miles an hour in the bike lane. Just don't do it. Even if it's clear sailing up ahead, I'm telling you, people will just wander into the bike lane on foot and treat it like an extended sidewalk. I don't know why people do that. Sometimes people will be on their phones waiting to cross the street, and then they'll step off the sidewalk into the bike lane and then just stand there in the bike lane almost like they're getting a head start on crossing the street. But no, not yet. There are still cars coming. And then the bikes that are coming at 20, 30 miles an hour are just like, well, they're out of luck. They got to slow down, they got to stop suddenly or go around. And if you're on an electric unicycle, it's that much more dangerous. So if you're in the bike lane, 15 to 20 is good. And the bike lane is always safer than being in the street. So if you're a new rider, treat the bike lane as your friend. Like if you're going somewhere, look at Google Maps and then choose bicycle as your option. Don't leave it on car, because if you leave it on car and you're like, okay, well, you know, I just want to see the closest route via car, well, it may take you on a street that doesn't have a bike lane. And then now you're stuck riding in the street and you're not ready to ride in the street. So make sure that you choose bicycle, because then it'll choose better routes for you that actually have bike lanes that are more bike friendly. And sometimes there is no bike lane on that route, on the, wherever it is you're heading for your destination. Well, at least then it'll choose calmer, nicer streets for you to travel on, so that you're riding a little more safely. Hello? So yeah, just you know, give yourself the growing time and the growing room to ride around at higher speeds. Like, don't rush it, don't force it. When you'll know when you're ready. As you ride more and more in the park, somewhere that's safe from cars, and just gain that muscle memory and the skills, as you ride more and more, you'll know, okay, I feel good. I'm ready to jump out there and look behind me all the time to make sure that a car is not right over my shoulder. Sometimes cars look at you and they think, oh, he knows what he's doing. I'm going to tailgate him, or I'm going to, you know, pass him right over his shoulder. And then they don't realize, yeah, you're comfortable, but you're not that comfortable. So a car being that close to you can be very unsettling, or it can make you nervous for a second. And when you're doing this, you know, you being nervous or startled might not be the best situation to be in. I'm just saying it all. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and declare 30, 40 miles an hour to be your safety zone, to your safety ability, before you're in the streets doing 20, 25 with the cars. Okay, good. So this is the New York City thing. As far as suburban and all that, I guess apply the same rule, but maybe even higher. I think you should be able to go to 50 in a suburban area. That way, if you're going 30, 40, or you're on the side of the road, just keep yourself collected. And just remember that some cars, these guys like to cold roll people and honk at people and yell at them and throw stuff at them and say to them things like, get off the road, or something like that. Just take that all into account, because you have people driving who, you know, for some reason they just get worked up over bicycles and electric unicycles being on the road with them. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't want to get too deep into that, into the psychology of that, but since it does exist, you're going to have to take a couple measures to help protect your safety and well-being. And just keep it in mind, like take it into account when you are out there on the streets. Because remember, you want to get home in one piece and live to ride another day. Don't ever ride your unicycle on a highway. Just don't, period. If it's a highway, it's not for you. Cars going way too fast to stop or swerve around you, and your unicycle, even the fastest unicycle in the business, even if it can go 60 or 60 plus by a little bit, there's just no reason for you to be in a highway unless, I don't know, unless you're in a big group. And I don't know, I just can't even recommend it under any circumstance. Maybe if there's an immense amount of traffic and you know you're going to be on there for a little stretch and you're going to be going in between the cars that are barely moving, or maybe if there's no traffic at all, the middle of the night or something. But that's when deadly accidents happen, because of cars like racing and stuff. So I don't know about that one, but if it's like the middle of the night and it's completely empty and you're on the side of the road, maybe, I guess you can do a little stretch of highway, but I don't know. I don't even know why you would want to do that. It makes no sense, in my opinion. So, you know, avoid highways. Wheels are not highway ready yet. I mean, the fastest wheel, like the V13 or the Master Pro or the Veteran Lynx, are not highway ready. So I don't know what that means. So that means any other wheel is definitely not highway ready. Okay. I guess that's 3 rules covered. 2 more rules for being new and entering into the electric unicycle space. Rule number 2 is always recharge your unicycle battery when you get home. Even if you only did a couple miles and you have like a veteran Sherman that can do 100 miles of range, the reason why is not because you're going to run out of juice and get hurt next time you ride if you only did 2 miles and you have 98 miles remaining on the clock. It's because when you finally do ride enough miles where your battery's low, you can forget to recharge if you're not in the habit of recharging. Now, it doesn't hurt your battery to always top it off and recharge it to full whenever you ride. Therefore, always do it because you want your electric unicycle to always be fully charged, because you want to reduce the risk of running out of power or being in low power mode where normally you can do 45 miles an hour, but guess what? Your battery's on 60% today and it's no longer safe to do 45 miles an hour because of voltage sag. Voltage sag is when you have lower power in your battery, and thus the entire unicycle becomes weaker and unable to accelerate as well, and ultimately it can't do the same top speed as it normally can because of that decreased amount of power, so you risk having a cutout. Now, cutouts are always on the front of your mind because if you go too fast or if you accelerate too hard, you can have a cutout, and the name of the game is not having a cutout. So, you know, you want to have your helmet Bluetooth speaker connected to your wheel so that if you do have if you are getting close to a cutout or the wheel is trying to beep at you and it's windy outside, well, you can hear the beep in your helmet, in your Bluetooth speaker inside your helmet, and that will better warn you to slow down. But in the event you don't have such a connection set up all in place, you can still make sure your wheel is fully charged, and therefore you're reducing the risk as much as possible. So you're getting the maximum amount of power output from your electric unicycle, which will mean that you can go as fast as you normally can without putting yourself in danger of having a cutout, or increased danger rather of having a cutout, more so than you normally ever would. So keep your unicycle fully charged whenever you get home. Make it a habit to just plug it in, and then that becomes your default thought cycle. You get home, you plug it in, and then, you know, it's actually nice when you have full power, because when your unicycle's on 100%, every time you get out there, you're going to be like, ooh, it's like so zippy and nice, and it's quick. And if you're ever out there and you're on 80%, you might think, my unicycle is like a little bit more sluggish than it usually is. Maybe my wheel's getting old. You know, if you don't realize that it's because of voltage sag, you might think, oh, my tire pressure must be low, or my unicycle is getting old, I need a new one. And it's like, no, it's not. It's just you're experiencing voltage sag. And a lot of new riders don't really understand this concept until later on in life. Okay, so in addition to keeping your unicycle charged for rule number 2, also check your tire pressure. Get a digital pump. They're like $50, $60, but they are worth it. Hey, it's No Shirt Man again. He's still out here, huh? It is cold. Good job, No Shirt Man, or bad job, depending on how you look at it. I hope he's like safe and healthy. That's like, seems like, I feel like I would need medical care if I was out here with no shirt on. I don't know how he's able to do that. Okay, so yes, make sure your tire pressure is at like 30, 34 at all times. If it drops below 30, if it's like 28, I guess it's okay if you like having like fake suspension so that the wheel can absorb impact a little better and feels a little softer. You're not going to have as good of acceleration at 28. Remember, the higher the tire air pressure you have, the faster the wheel will be. So if you're riding at 40, hypothetically, which I don't recommend, 40 psi, that's usually the limit for all tires. So it's actually the same across all vehicles, bikes, cars, all different types of vehicles. Usually the tire pressure is 40. It's just more air because it's more tire, but pressure applies sort of like proportionally, or it's like a ratio. So it's pressure per square inch, PSI, pounds per square inch, something like that. Okay, so 40 is really high for an electric unicycle because we are susceptible to rim damage. The rim is what's holding the tire. It's that aluminum part of the wheel. And for some reason, electric unicycles get dents or even shatter rims more often than, let's say, bicycles or cars. I think it's because it's still a small, paltry, thin rim, relatively speaking, for the type of speed and power that we get. So maybe that has to do with it. I don't know why, but either way, just know that rims breaking and bending are a thing, and they're very costly and time-consuming to change. So it's better if you avoid breaking or bending your rim altogether. And so 40 psi, there is some debate on this. I know some people are already saying, hey, that's how you protect your rim, and other guys are saying, no, this is how you destroy your rim. I'm of the camp that higher psi means the whole tire situation is too stiff. It's like riding on a stone, and I've experienced breaking my rim very badly right around the time I tried to ride around at 40 psi. So I never ride at 40 psi anymore. My sweet spot is 34. It's soft enough, but it's also firm enough to get good mileage and good speed. But it's soft enough so that I don't feel like it could be my opinion. I would look into it further, but if you want to trust my opinion, 32, 34 psi is a good place to be for your tire pressure. Now, if you want to ride 40, hopefully you have a suspension wheel. We talked to James Kim the other day, who said he rides at 40, but I think he also mentioned that he's a lighter rider. And he actually did also concede to the fact that 40 is a rim breaker. So yeah, so I think I'm right on this. But he also said he's a lighter weighted rider. He was maybe 160 pounds, or maybe a little more, a little less. So that's light. That's on the lighter side. If you're 200, 250 pounds, then you're even more susceptible to break your rim. So don't overlook that fact. Do not ride at 40. And then James Kim also said that because his wheel, the Sherman S, has suspension, that rather than the wheel or the rim taking the damage, the suspension was allowing the wheel to go up and down, and the suspension was kind of absorbing the damage, so to speak. So maybe keep your tire pressure at 34 if you're riding a regular wheel like the Veteran Sherman, or any wheel that doesn't have suspension. And then if you're riding a suspension wheel, I'd say, okay, go up to like 38 if you must, if you absolutely need that high speed, stiff tire, that good high tire pressure for whatever reason, if that's your preference. But also providing that you're a lighter rider, don't go all the way up to 40 unless like you weigh like 150 pounds and you're on a great wheel that has a lot of suspension. And even then, please be careful for potholes and jumping off of ledges and things. Make sure that you're actually riding around carefully and safely. Okay, and rule number 1 for riding in the city: if you're riding around Manhattan and getting around your wheel on a commute, and you're trying to be safe and you're trying to do everything the right way, is what's going on in your head. You have to use good judgment, people. Please, things that will save your life is not your helmet as much as, or your safety gear or your knee pads or anything like that. The things that will save your life the most is your judgment, okay? Don't do crazy things. Don't jump out in front of cars and ride riskily. Don't overspeed. Use good judgment. Use your eyes to look around. Turn your head around to make sure there's no cars around you. Be reasonable. Be sensible. When you ride, do all the things that you know you need to do to keep yourself safe. It's use your head. Use good judgment. If you're an adrenaline junkie, or you find yourself drawn to high-speed riding or being reckless, calm that down. Convince yourself somehow. Have a pep talk with yourself about being safe and about being cautious and being a part of the road symbiosis. Be part of the community with traffic. Don't go against the community. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody has to look out for your well-being. They should, but they may not. So take that into account, and remember that, life is precious. And your family and all the people who care about you, all of that is precious, so guard it. Be sensible, use your brain. That's the most important rule while riding. Be a good person to yourself. Look out for your own safety and well-being. Be the biggest advocate for your care, for your well-being. And hopefully you all ride safe out there. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, share, tell all your friends about it. And let me know in the comments if you have ideas, if you have any any thoughts on anything, any recommendations, advice, and so on. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate all the love and support. I appreciate all the kind words that you guys put forth on every single video. I appreciate the time you guys take to spend with me and to watch and join me on my journey. And I hope you're all doing very well. Have a great day. Goodbye.